one. He doesn't mess with that stuff. Kind of like Rock Lee, how like he doesn't use chakra. But in this version, Naruto knows how to use it a little bit. He really just makes clones so he can just run the ones with people. Like if he's getting jumped, he literally doesn't make no shout. He'll try to do what clones used to, just to throw whatever he made at them and start running the ones with them. He kinda when he's 12, he looks more like this, and when he's older, he looks more like this. I know, basically, looks like Goku, basically. Well, at a young age, he towers over everyone, not in height, but in physical strength. Now, even Lee knows not to make Naruto mad. Because when Naruto's mad, no one can stop him, save for Kakashi and other like high-ranking ninjas. I mean, mainly just Kakashi, honestly. Is Kakashi the actual Hokage? Jiraiya, if he's there, the ramen guy, or did I say my guy? Yeah, I think I said my guy. See, it's only them. Yeah, it's only a handful of people that can stop Naruto when he's royally pissed off. Now that's when he's able to access the Ninetales ability, which he has better control of, since Ninetales says he's no weakling. This kid fights for what he wants. I respect him. But unlike Canon, he also has a little bit of a downgrade than in Canon. Well, he's considered the dead last demon because no one can stop him in a 1-to-1. Like his taijutsu is on point. Like only like Rock Lee has ever been able to best him in a 1-to-1, and that's only because Lee is using his speed. Like Naruto can dead stop him in his tracks if he can connect one punch. That's all it takes. And Kakashi has actually on multiple occasions had to pull Naruto off people when he was running the ones, because they were trying to jump him and he was not having that. Neji himself has known not to mess with Naruto, ever. But the anime has to happen, so begin. So we go off with the same Nine-Tailed attack, the same thing, Naruto restrains. We go over to the point where we actually get to in the first episode, with Naruto, surprisingly enough, with that scroll. In this version, he actually figures out how to use that chakra thing. The shadow clone. That's all he learns. So he said, finally, a cloning technique. This can only stop getting jumped. I won't need it that often, though. He thinks he won't need it that often, but he actually will. So he starts just doing his regular thing. Now, the same, like, instructors came, messed with him, same thing kind of happened. Only in this version, the instructor was so beaten to crap that whenever they found him, they were like, what did you do, Naruto? And then the other teacher was like, he was a traitor, Naruto protected me, yada yada yada. That happened. Naruto walked up into the class not caring at all, and he did something no one in his class had ever done before. He wore torn clothes to school. And more precisely, he wore this exact outfit to school. Like, this was the way you dressed, like, in the first day. And now, save for the pants actually being long enough to perfectly fit him, he is just like this. And everyone there, like, notes that he's probably the biggest one there out of sheer bulk. Even Kakashi, even, like, Sasuke's like, I would not be willing to run the ones with him anymore. Because Sasuke used to beat on him when he was weaker. But that's why Naruto is so much more powerful now. He trained every single chance he got. Now, by trained, I mean physically. And he's actually trains more than Rock Lee and Mike Guy put together. Like, every day they're doing their training, and people will see Naruto training before them. And they're like, wait, what? Did they start training together or something? No, they're way on different time schedules. Because, like, Naruto will do, like, 5 laps around the village on his fingertips, while they're still just doing their morning run. Naruto's just passing them occasionally, and my guy and Rock Lee respect him, because this is the only kid who ever outworks them. Kakashi has done, like, his practicing his skills in the forest. Naruto will practice the only skills he has, punching, which actually intrigued Kakashi. Whenever he was chosen to, like, be the leader of this team, his first thought was, I am not going to be able to win a 1-to-1 with this kid. At least not physically. I may have to actually bust out jutsus for this kid. Wonder if any of his teammates could handle me. Probably none of them could touch me. But he's gonna be a problem. If they use teamwork, they could probably actually beat me. Yeah, I'm not thinking about that. He thinks. As he shows up at the same time, still gets hit with the same prank, and they still do the same bells thing. But in this version, whenever Naruto stands there, Kakashi's like, "Aren't you going to hide like the rest?" And he said, "No, I'm not like the rest. You see, all I do is run them once." He yells out in his full force as he makes like a ton of shadow clones that just surround the field. And Kakashi is confused, like there's so many of them, and every single one of them packs a punch. And he's just getting jumped by like 30 of them at once. And then he notices there's only one coming at him. Like, the rest are standing backwards. Does this mean this is going to be one that detonates or something? He thinks that, and he just thinks he needs to, like, stay. Like, maybe he can just, like, send it backwards, hit it or something. So he thinks it's still a clone. The one he's about to swing at is a clone. So he doesn't actually hold back the way he would on the real Naruto. So he kicks this thing as hard as he can to send it flying backwards. But this was the real Naruto that grabbed his foot and slammed him down like a sledgehammer, which almost knocked out Kakashi. And he actually was almost able to grab a bell, but he wasn't able to since Kakashi did the transfer jutsu and just disappeared. His first thought was, that kid just put me down. So he actually thinks about going back to it in a second, but like he knows he'll have to use jutsu on the kid. Like he wasn't even grabbing his book yet, and the kid was already beating down on him. Now, I know y'all might think, no, there's no way Naruto at this age could ever take on Kakashi. He's not that he can take on Kakashi in an even fight. It's that Naruto's just got too much broken chakra ability with the ability to run hands. Now, Sasuke actually was doing the same a bit well on him, but then Naruto's just sitting there, waiting for Sasuke to go down. And once Sasuke goes down, Naruto comes in with the biggest clothesline. The straight just flung Kakashi into the river. And they actually said something to Sasuke. Hey, yo, emo kid, come here, help me jump him. And then this really upsets Sakura since she wanted to help too. Well, only helping Sasuke, didn't really care about Naruto. So she was like, no, I want to be the one to help jump the Kakashi with Sasuke. Kakashi hearing this was like, what? She straight was like, she's just denying their team a victory at this point. She goes to actually try stabbing Naruto. No, she doesn't. Kakashi goes up to try just burying her on the ground, but Naruto sees this and sledgehammer punched clean through the ground, grabbing Kakashi by the back of his, like, vest thing, tearing him out the ground. And Kakashi's like, how did you know where I was? And then Naruto said, it's kind of simple. I just remembered where I threw you. Thinking this was a little odd, and then he noticed that there was something on his foot. It was a tiny little shadow clone of Naruto on the bottom of his foot, holding on. This confused him completely. Like, what is this? He said, it's a messed up shadow clone. I can kind of track him. Had to learn something to survive. Kakashi, impressed, said, alright. You also haven't done any. But then the whole thing about teamwork and everything hit them and everything, so that still happened. And Sasuke and Sakura actually still offer their food the same way they did in canon. And when Naruto got one bite, he was actually pretty happy. And then, boom, he just straight up saw Kakashi appear. Now, when Kakashi appeared in this version, Naruto didn't break out of the ropes because he wasn't really caring. But he knew what that whole trick was to get them to do teamwork. And Naruto was all for this. So, once they had been able to do it, and like when they were all going to leave him, he straight up said, hold on. Snapped the ropes and started walking with his hands in his pockets, saying, I know y'all were not about to leave me, were y'all? And they said, honestly, yes, we were. He says, why though? Simple. We figured you'd find your own way out. There's only two ways out of that thing, and you know it. Either I get let out or I break out. And I may have been able to make like chakra, knife or something to tear me out of it, but I'm not able to do that quite yet. So that was messed up. Well, you're out, aren't you? Yeah, whatever. Now, things go as canon for the missions until they actually do go to the same thing, helping the old man. In this version, when those two dudes attack, the first thing that happens when they run up, instead of like stabbing Kakashi or any of that, and Sasuke have to fight him off, the first thing that happens when they go to stab Kakashi is they both get clotheslined by Naruto grabbing their chains, and just punching with it, sending them backwards. They didn't expect anyone to be able to do that. Even Zabuza would have to like hook it with his sword and struggles to hold them back with it. So whenever these two are just completely surprised, they actually go to a double team on Naruto. And the first thing that happens when they do that is he kicks them in the chest. One in the chest sent flying, and the other one gets a straight punch to the eye, which cleanly knocks them both out. They were able to scratch him, and he still got the poison out of his hand. He was ready for the ones with everybody. Now, Zabuza appearance kind of came the same way as in canon, but it's only Zabuza that appears. So, the first thing that happens is Naruto tries running the ones. Now, Zabuza actually got separated from his sword for a second when Kakashi was fighting him. Now, this gave Naruto the opportunity to steal his sword and swing down like it was a complete weapon. And like this thing was like heavy to anybody. Even Zabuza himself struggled to pick this thing up normally. Like he was the only one who could hold it the way he did. And then Naruto was doing it like it was like it was normalish to him. And he slung this thing down like sideways like a baseball bat. And the broad end hit Zabuza and almost knocked him down. They still did this, whatever the name was, I think Sakura or whatever, I don't care. Still did the same things in canon. That went the same. The bridge scene goes basically the same since Naruto got there late. But in this version, those like clones he sent there were completely unstoppable. So yeah, he's just standing there. Whenever he gets there, he is ready for the ones with everything. When he gets there, the first thing he does when he gets trapped in the mirrors is shatter one of the mirrors with that kid through it. And that's only because he should have just slapped it as hard as he could. And this cracked it, but not broke it. So he was just angry. So he just rapidly kept swinging at it and for like a minute until it broke. This made the kid be like, no. And fix it up again. And it just annoyed Naruto. Same thing happened with Sasuke almost dying. For Naruto just to break everything in his sight. Now, in this version, Zabuza said something. In this version when Naruto gave him his, his kunai, Zabuza said, "Take my sword, boy. It would be perfect for you. Leave this kunai at my grave." As Zabuza fought till his dying breath, and then whenever there was only like a handful of them left, Naruto took care of that. Now, Naruto took Zabuza's sword like he had asked of him. And then he grabbed something from Haku that made no sense. He grabbed the needles. Now Haku or whatever, kinda told him, take them. And he actually threw this on his other leg. He had his kunai on one side with his weapons, he had Haku's weapon, and he had Zabuza's sword on his back. Even having Zabuza's sheath for it. Proceeding to walk away, kind of teary-eyed as he left 2 graves with the engravement of their names, Haku and Zabuza, written on the kunai that they were stabbed in the ground. And they're actually going to come visit these every few days, every few months, or whatever. But back to the story, the way it goes. So things go basically the same thing as in canon for a while. Yeah, 'cause nothing Naruto does really is impacting his social life when he gets back. It is impressive that they were able to do that mission, and they actually grant him, like, they get to take that exam the same way they did in canon, but in this version it goes a completely different way. Naruto didn't have any idea for the answers, so he didn't answer it. And he straight just did the same brazen act he did in canon. And then, whenever it was, like, time for that, like, practical one. Whenever they deal with, like, that one snake, they know that, like, Naruto knows how to handle this. He straight up just clotheslined the snake. And now, they still were able to disguise themselves as Naruto for a second, but that still didn't work. Now, even though they tried disguising themselves as Naruto and that had no effect, they were not expecting what happened. Them trying to, like, fake being Naruto did not work in their favor. And whenever Sasuke still got that bite mark and everything, that one in his canon, basically everything will go as basically canon with just Naruto more swinging. Now, honestly, I haven't fully watched through Naruto or Shippuden, but we're gonna go off what I've heard before. So yeah. And whenever, like, this is, I don't know if it was after this, whenever Sasuke left and everything, I think there was, like, a try to get him back, and they fought some ninjas there, and I'm gonna say that still happens, but in this version, if Naruto's there, he straight just wrecks everything. Like, Choji fought that fat dude, and all that, from that team. In this version, Naruto straight was just like, yo, Choji, you need a hand? And Choji was like, nah, man, I got this. As Naruto's like, can I at least punch him once? Choji was like, sure, I don't mind. And then he was like, I hope he doesn't take him out with one punch. One swing, dude was almost on the ground. Got shaken up. And then it's like, man, I told you not one punch. She's like, I'm not. I left him some for you. Well, thanks for leaving me some smoke. As we go to keep going, and now I'm gonna skip a little bit because I don't know anything that happens between this. So we're gonna start back off in the beginning of Shippuden, I think. Whenever, like, Naruto gets back from training with Jiraiya, knowing the Rasengan. Now, he trains a lot, so his physical body is just as massive as this. And he's actually just about to, this is right before I think he gets Sage Mode. And he still talks with Tsunade, because she's the Hokage now, and that's a whole thing that goes as canon. Now, slight change from in canon. Whenever, like, the pain incident happens, that goes basically utterly the same. But in this version, whenever Naruto pops in, he takes out the same exact ones like it's in nothing. Like, whenever he needs, like, he still needs Sage Mode the same way he did before, but he just doesn't care. Like, one swing from him almost kills them all in Sage Mode. And back to the story. So yeah, in Sage Mode, he's straight up just wrecking Pain. All of them. So when Pain is trying to retreat, and it's not working, he still found Nagato and did the whole speech jutsu, and that dude revived everyone that was killed. In this version, Jiraiya gets revived, because yay. Now, completely different than what happened in canon. We're going to skip to the war arc. Whenever, like, same thing, we're going to the whole war arc. Now, I don't know much about the war arc, so we're going to just kind of fly through it. So what I do know is that they're powerful. They have to fight Madara. Now, in this version, Madara completely gets outshadowed. Because whenever he's running the ones with everybody, before my guy even gets a chance to step on the plate to swing, Naruto's there. And once everyone's, like, getting ran the ones with of the army, Naruto straight up just drop kicks this dude. And he said, you remind me of another one of your clan. Really, who is that? Saying Sasuke's name, saying, he's just as annoying to deal with in a fight as you. Oh, really? He sounds fun. As Madara just got punched in the mouth. Now, Madara is completely just this is an almost one-sided fight. But it's way more even than it was in canon. Like, Naruto is straight up just putting them ones in, but he still can't do much to Madara. Now, when he entered Sage, like, he straight up turned on Sage Mode and punched this dude straight in the mouth. And this was doing impressive work. But then he thought about something. Nine Tails. As he used his Nine-Tailed cloak and started running the ones. Now, that whole fight will just go with, like, everything being more along the lines of a battle of a one-on-one. Now, the 5 Kage thing still happened while Naruto walks well, Naruto had to do something. But in this version, the five Kage utterly getting destroyed makes them think, yo, Naruto, you handle this. Naruto tried handling it. He could not. So when they're trying to have Naruto handle this is when, out of nowhere, the whole thing with Black Zetsu, Kage, and everything happens. So Kage's there, they're having trouble winning. Like, every punch they do is straight up doing nothing. Now, literally everyone is trying to sneak this dude. No one had, and then Black Zetsu does. As Black Zetsu turns modern, Kage the same ways in canon, the powerhouse abilities were used, and yada yada yada. Still dimension shift, and everything is going normal to canon as this is one of the biggest fight ever. And Naruto just straight clocks with one solid swing. Nope. The perfect punch, almost killing everything in its path. Now we're going to go now to Boruto. I don't know anything about Boruto because I've never watched it. Now, we start off with Naruto becoming Hokage, getting winged off him by his daughter, but in this version, it just straight up bounced off him, and he said, "Aw, Himawari, don't punch me like that again." Now, then he proceeded to just walk away and become Hokage. Now, he said, "I knew I was going to become Hokage, I knew I was that guy, I knew I had to do that, yada yada yada, whatever." Now, even though he knew he'd become Hokage, he still got Jiraiya there supporting him, and he had the same dude become, like, his dad for the wedding and everything, and, like, that makes sense. Now, thing is, everything goes perfectly. Until the whole thing with all of the things happen, and with the whole Oatsuki clan and everything, and, like, that one dude who popped up in Naruto's house is just, like, to run the ones with, like, Naruto and grab that kid. Naruto just straight up headbutt his head clean almost off his shoulder. And that's basically enough for, like, Naruto to think, this would be too easy, I'm going later. And he straight just walked, like, did everything the same way as in canon. Instead of, like, having to sacrifice Kurama, he didn't need to do that in this version. Oh, and Neji's alive. Because I wanted Neji alive. That's why. That's all. So, that's the story. And, yeah. Boruto becomes just